I started building my author business in January of this year, and I am not even remotely close to publishing, querying, or any of that. In fact, I have not even finished writing the first draft of my book. However, as a marketer, I knew that becoming a successful author and a successful creator on YouTube and social media, that I would need to start that process very early. So today I will be sharing the top 3 tips that I am using to build my bookish brand from scratch in 2025. Let's get into it. If you guys are new here, my name is Sofia. I'm currently in process of writing the very first draft of my rom-com, and I am also your host of the Booked and Busy podcast, which is the podcast for busy book lovers that are building the lives and businesses of their dreams. So I'm going to start this off with what might sound like a little bit of cliche advice, but as a seasoned social media manager who has been working with a ton of different clients in different industries for almost 5 years now, this is a solid question that you need to ask yourself. If you have already started an account, if you have tens of thousands of followers, or if you're literally starting from scratch, you need to ask yourself, what makes you different? Why should someone follow your BookTok if it looks on the outside like every other BookTok? What makes you stand out and what makes you different? Why should they follow you? Why should somebody subscribe to your AuthorTube if from the outside it looks like you're posting the same content as every other AuthorTuber? This question can also be phrased as, what makes your journey different? For me, I know that my journey has been super unique because I basically dropped every responsibility in my life for a couple of months to try to write my book, totally failed, and now I am starting again with a totally different lens while also working on building my social media business. Obviously, your journey in writing a book and starting a book account, all of that good stuff is going to look completely different compared to other people. But you have to portray it that way, because if you're just posting the same generic looking content, following the same trends as all of the other creators in your niche, you're not really going to bring in people that are actually going to hit the follow button or hit the subscribe button. They might like your video, you might get a lot of views, but if you're just providing the same generic content as everybody else, it's not going to give anybody a reason to follow you. So you need to show people how you actually stand out. For me, I know that I do a lot of talking, of course, about my journey, but in my videos, I always show things like maybe I'm baking something or what I'm working on that week. I've shared a lot about my journey with my health goals this year, going on trips, sharing stuff that is unique to you and your personal hobbies outside of reading and or writing are the type of things that are going to help people actually get interested in following along. Why should they follow you? Why should they be interested? Sometimes the premise of the book that you're writing is enough, and sometimes your content is unique and interesting enough or high quality enough. But when you're actually sitting down and talking to the camera, it's important that you're showcasing what makes you you and why somebody should tag along on your journey or follow your account. Because it's one thing to grow in followers, but followers is not always going to equal sales and success when it comes to having a business. At the end of the day, if you are a creator, whether it's because you're an author, whether it's because you love books and you're posting about books, your goal is likely to do that full time. Therefore, you're going to need to monetize that account in some which way. Obviously, for authors, that is selling your book and hopefully maybe brand deals or whatnot. But for book creators, that could be getting books sent to you, doing book reviews. Maybe you have a paid book club every month. All of that kind of stuff, people aren't going to buy into that literally if they're not interested enough in your content and in who you are. It's not like you need to reinvent the wheel with this. It's just about making sure that that's really clear to you and that you're really showing all the things that make you stand out. Another thing I did when I first started posting is I talked a lot about the crazy journey that I had last year with renovating a house, getting married, moving, a ton of stuff that I had going on. I really reiterated that because it was something unique about me and it made me stand out. And now a lot of people will compliment things in my house and ask for tours of this. I just redid my office and I had somebody comment asking for an office tour. So stuff like that will really help you stand out and make a difference in whether people are just going to like something or if they're going to follow and subscribe. The next tip is to get extremely crystal clear on who you are talking to. If you've done any research about marketing in any capacity, you've heard of the term target audience, and that is exactly what this is. You might not think it's important, especially if you are primarily a book creator, but it actually should be the main driver behind all of your content. And if it's not, it could be a reason why you're struggling to grow. For example, I see a ton of published authors that constantly post author relatable content. And I post a lot of this because I'm trying to build a community of writers, but I see a lot of authors who are primarily trying to sell their books, or so I assume, and they will post a ton of author relatable content, writing content, and that absolutely has its place for building their community of writers and authors. However, that is not what is going to sell their books. It's a huge missed opportunity for authors to find their target audience. The same concept goes for book creators, BookTokers, BookTubers, Bookstagrammers. If you are posting about the same 5 to 10 books that everybody else is talking about, because we are all so tired of hearing about them, you are not going to gain followers. You might get views, but nobody is going to follow you because you're not sharing anything unique. You're not providing a unique perspective. People want to hear you. They want to hear your thoughts, your opinions. They want a reason to follow you. Everybody wants to see an original thought. They don't want to see the same books that are being talked about over and over and over and over again. Give us something new. Okay, so how do you actually figure out who you're supposed to be talking to then? If you are an author, you need to get into the head of your reader. 9 times out of 10, if you're an author, the person that you want to read your books is some sort of version of you, whether it's past, present, or future. So it should be relatively easy to get into their head and figure out what's going to interest them, what's going to hook them in to your content, to your book. I see a ton of authors that will post videos just about the tropes that are in their book, and maybe that will attract their readers. I know that I talk about that with my book, and a ton of other authors do, but sometimes you need to go a little bit deeper than that. In my book, and I haven't really shared a ton about this before, but my main character, she's like an eldest daughter, she's a thought daughter, and so those are some good, like, buzzy terms that I plan on using when it comes to marketing my book when it's complete and the time comes, because it's something relatable, and it's going to catch my readers' attention, and it's going to draw them in. Wow, that's a relatable main character. What does she go through? What is her story? What is her this? What is her that? If you are trying to promote your romantasy, you can't just say that it's an enemies to lovers romantasy, because baby, we have been there and done that. We need more. Tell us more about what's in it. What are the specific tropes? What are the specific scenes? What are the specific moments that you love, love, love deeply about your book that you know your reader would also love? That is the kind of stuff that you need to talk about. If you can directly speak to what that reader is looking for in a book, that is how you are going to get them to buy your book, to follow your page. If you're an unpublished author or you're writing your book like I am, what is going to get people invested in your journey and invested in buying your book when the time comes? How can you integrate that into your content? For me, I only really share little tidbits about my book here and there, but that's kind of building up the mystery. Obviously, my growth on YouTube has been progressing pretty well. I just hit 300 subscribers, which is super exciting, and people are interested in my book. People are interested in my journey and what my book is going to be about, and that's because I'm dropping little tidbits here and there about what it's going to be. I'm showing a mood board. I'm playing music. Somebody who does this amazingly well is Brielle Wrights. She's a fantastic creator here on AuthorTube, but the hype that I have for her book, Unraveling, I cannot wait. I've been watching her journey. I'm so excited, and as somebody who would be the target audience for her book, she is doing an amazing job of getting me excited and making me want to read her book. If you are a book creator, your audience is also going to be readers, of course, but how can you speak to them? Again, if you're just sharing the same books over and over again that everybody else is talking about, nobody is going to hit follow because they're over it. They're honestly over it. They don't want to see the same thing over and over again. When you post on short form social media, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, you are primarily reaching new people. So you need to stop talking to your followers and start talking to new people. How can you immediately hook them in and get interested in you, in your journey, in what you're doing, and what your page is about? I get a million BookTokers on my TikTok every single day, and I love all of these creators, but there's only going to be some of them that I'm actually going to hit the follow button for because I'm fully interested. There is nothing at all wrong with posting trends and hopping on all of that good stuff, but the number one thing about growing a book account or an author account is that you are also building a personal brand. So you need to make that content personable because that is what is going to grow your bookish brand and your personal brand in tandem with each other. Now, this last tip for today's episode is one that I don't get to say a lot as a social media manager. A lot of the clients that I work with don't really have audiences that are themselves or a version of themselves. Whereas when it comes to bookish brands or author brands, you are generally your audience. So that is why I offer this final piece of advice, which is to create content that you would want to watch. That means creating quality content, literally and figuratively, that you would click on. If your video, your thumbnail, your title, everything popped up on your YouTube home screen, would you click on it? Would you really think about it? Because I know for me, some of the thumbnails and titles that I was creating in the beginning of my journey were not at all engaging. Even some of my recent videos, I ended up going through and changing the titles and thumbnails because it was not engaging. And it made a difference because YouTube pushed that video back out and it started to get more views. So really take a second to think about it. Would you click on that video? Would you scroll past your TikTok? Would you scroll past your reel? Is it engaging? Is the quality good enough? You don't need crazy equipment to be a creator or post about your book, about your whatever. 9 times out of 10, I record on my phone. I recorded my first YouTube videos on my phone and with a little ring light from Amazon. It's all you need. You don't need a lot. But it makes a huge difference to try your best to focus on quality, because if I'm seeing somebody's blurry video pop up on TikTok, I'm so sorry. I'm scrolling away. I don't want to watch that. I'm going to scroll away immediately. It's not going to have my attention at all. Forget about what it's actually about. If it's blurry or if the text is weird, if it's a font that's not engaging, I am literally scrolling by. Unfortunately, all of that stuff does matter, but ultimately creating content that you would click on, that you would sit through and you would watch is what is going to make or break your growth. And again, like I said, there are a lot of businesses and brands that don't really have the luxury of thinking that way because they aren't their audience. So I would take advantage of that. Take advantage of the fact that you are your target audience for the most part, and do your best to use your personal journey and your personal characteristics, your personality, all of that to your advantage, because that is what's going to help you stand out, and it's going to make the difference between whether people like your video or follow and subscribe to you. I would absolutely love to do more videos on growing a book related account, whether it's AuthorTube, BookTube, whatever. As you guys know, I am a marketer, so I have a fun and unique perspective to all of this stuff as a creator as well. So if that's something that you would be interested in and you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a comment below. Drop any questions that you might have, even if it's super specific or deep into marketing and social media. I will hopefully be able to answer it in another video and episode. I've been having so much fun growing these platforms over the last couple of months, and as I get back into working on my social media business, I'm excited to kind of find the balance between those two things and continue to grow both sides of my creative business. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening, and I will see you again very soon.